Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate your support. And what I want to do in this video today is I want to take a moment to go over a few fragrances that were sent to me by this gentleman with whom I've been in communication online. And he goes by the name of Daniel Gallagher. And he is an up-and-coming perfumer. He's based out of Texas. And he wanted to send me a couple of his fragrances, and I agreed to do an honest sort of review slash first impressions of them online. Now it's still in the very sort of rudimentary starting initial phases where he doesn't have labels for it yet and he just set up a website for it. I'm going to leave it down below if you're interested in checking it out. And according to the website, he does have a few fragrances. Now he said he was only going to send me two. One of them I know is Neroli spelled backwards. Illoren, Neroli spelled backwards. And the other one is called Villainous Vanilla. So pretty simple names, but I do think they're tentative and subject to change. But I wanted to go ahead and open up this package on camera. I wanted to show you guys, or at least tell you guys firsthand what I think of his fragrances, and if it's something I think it's worth checking out. And I love the drive and determination among up-and-coming perfumers nowadays. I know I recently did a video for a good friend of mine, Vincent Dreamhouse, and he has a brand of fragrances called Ikirio, and he has been making a lot of fragrances, and he puts in a very strong effort with his creations, and it's something that I can really appreciate because I do like his determination and his work ethic. So here they are. I finally got it opened up, and it was packaged very nicely, but something did spill because I at least I think something spilled. Or maybe that's just how the label looks. That's a pretty cool, because it does have a certain fade to it. So I think that's just how the label looks, but it's a little deceptive. It almost looks as though something spilled. But these are pretty generously sized samples. I think it's about 4 to 5 milliliters. So thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. And he sent me 3 fragrances, and I think this one has a pretty interesting name. It's called That Guy. So it's the 2 that I mentioned, and he actually sent in a 3rd freebie. So I want to try these on skin, and I want to tell you guys what I think about it. So we'll start with Illoren. So this one is Neroli spelled backwards. For an atomizer, that's a good distribution. For a decan, I mean, that's a good distribution. Okay, so there's a lot of Neroli here, as the name would imply. Very bright and citrusy. Of course, it's evocative and reminiscent of 4711 by Mora and Verts. Also, perhaps a little bit of Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. But I think there's a floral component to this as well. I could be completely wrong about that. But it seems like there's more of a heart to this one. Whereas with Neroli Portofino and even 4711, it's a lot of top notes, and then it etherealizes into nothing. So I'd be very interested to see what this progresses to. But it's a clean, white, floral, soapy, citrusy sort of vibe. I think for somebody who loves Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, this is certainly something that you should try, especially if it's going for a much cheaper price. It comes across more raw than Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, not necessarily more natural, because I think Neroli Portofino does smell natural. I just think this comes across more raw. Okay, so far I think it's interesting. I really do like it. Of course, there are a few ways that I think you can mess up Neroli, but you did really well on this, Daniel, so I'm very impressed. This one is called Villainous Vanilla. And no, I did not misspell that. It's Villainous, Ness. But it's a nice play on words. That's interesting. So while I do get a lot of vanilla, I get a sort of almost herbal, smoky quality. An herby quality. So yeah, there is vanilla, but it's not a gourmand. It's not a gourmand. It doesn't smell like Spiritu Double Vanille by Guerlain. Doesn't smell like Vanille Insensé by Atelier. It's not a traditional sweet, gourmand, ice cream vanilla. There's definitely something sort of brash, brazen, harsh, and aggressive about it. Can't put my finger or my nose on it, but something that almost seems to not agree with the vanilla, but not in a bad way. It's not discordant. It's interesting. It's interesting. This is, I see this being the type of fragrance where if somebody's wearing it and they're walking down the street, or say you're wearing it and you're walking down the street, somebody is going to ask you what you're wearing, not necessarily because it smells good, and it does smell good, but not necessarily because it smells good, but because it smells sort of peculiar and eccentric and unique and unusual. But I think it's a good scent. Once again, I'm curious to see how this fragrance unfolds as well. Let's try that guy. I hate to be that guy, but I'm just kidding. Maybe a little smoky, maybe a little animalistic. Reminds me a little bit of Cade Oil. So if you've ever tried A City on Fire by Imaginary Authors, which is one of my favorite scents. Beautiful, amazing, stellar scent, spectacular. This one has that same vibe. It kind of has like a smoky, animalistic quality. There's like a leathery nuance to it. It's nice. It's what you would get if you took A City on Fire by Imaginary Authors and you crossbred it with Beaver by Zoologist. And I know that's going to be a scary mashup for some people, but I urge you to try this because it's interesting. It's very interesting. All three of these are interesting, you know, and I think even the Neroli, which is probably the most simple of the three that I've tried, even that's interesting. Because like I said, the Neroli has a heart to it. So it smells more like Eau de New York. Because Eau de New York has that petitgrain note. So you have like the woodsy, the floral nuance. So there's a lot more going on in this in the background. But all three of them really sort of peculiar, really unique. But all three of them, what I can say is that there's a wearable quality about them, where it's not so unusual and so eccentric that you would say, yeah, I can't wear this in public. It's unwearable or it's daring. No, I don't think any of these are daring. But I think they're all very wearable, and I think they stand in their own right, and I think all of them are fragrances that you ought to try. They're certainly fragrances that you ought to try, and it's a strange but interesting and very appreciable blend, and I love them. I love them. So, Daniel, thank you so much for sharing your fragrances with me. It's 3 fragrances. I'm going to leave the link down below. If you're interested in checking these fragrances out, please don't take my word for it. Go check it out. Maybe you can get yourself a small sample. I know he said in an email to me recently that he was setting up a PayPal option on it, so I don't know if that's fully established, but hopefully you do get the opportunity to check it out. The prices are pretty affordable. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I did leave the information down below. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and please don't forget to subscribe for future videos, top 10s, unboxings, a lot of giveaways, and a lot of other fragrance-related content. So on that note, please remember I smell well so you can smell good, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care.